Been wanting to try this ammo for a long time. What little bit I have seen already for myself, this could be very accurate stuff. This is the G2 RIP ammo. This is going to be first up through the Glock 23. I want to shoot this one first because I want to let you see the kind of holes it makes in this target downrange. And downrange right now is 10 yards. That's where that orange dot is. Let's check out those holes. Okay, Steyr S4c A1. Going to start out the exact same way. Start out with 10 rounds of this RIP ammo. Then I'm going to move on to a combo of some other jacketed hollow point. I'll talk about that in a minute when I load that up. Same everything. I'm 10 yards away from that orange dot, and I am shooting the Steyr S4c A1. And the sun is starting to get in my eyes. Okay, well, it handled the ammo nicely, and from here I have to squint a little bit. Looks like it made a pretty decent group. It looks like it's shooting maybe a little bit higher. It's got that funny sight picture of the triangle inside a triangle. I've showed you that before when we did a first 100. I'll show it to you again. I haven't shot this gun since I did the first 100, so kind of a fun excuse to get it back out and shoot it again. Get reacquainted with it a little bit, especially compared to a Glock. All right, now I'm going to go to 5 rounds of Federal HST, followed by 5 rounds of Sig Sauer Elite Performance V-Crown. All in the same mag, commingling, and apparently getting along okay. All right, I could really feel the difference when we went from number 5 to number 6. The SIG is peppy ammo, which is what you want in a carry load. I will tell you, without much fear of reprisal, this Steyr has a much nicer trigger than the Glock. Much nicer. Talk about that in more detail in a bit, but way lighter and shorter. Not as tactile on the reset. Harder to hear and feel the reset, but does have a sweet break. Okay, let's follow that up with 10 rounds of something I do carry. Sig Sauer Elite Performance V Crown, 180 grain. Very awesome stuff. And definitely a lot more pressure than that RIP ammo. And if you want to be able to train or practice with the same ammo you carry, but for cheaper, the Sig Sauer Elite Performance Full Metal Jacket, same 180 grains, same velocity, it's just more economical and easier to train with, easier to practice with at the range. Sig Sauer did provide this ammunition. I am appreciative of that. The SIG ammo is definitely a whole lot snappier than that RIP stuff. So about the Glock 23, which is what we're here to talk about, right? Comparing the Glock 23 to the Steyr S-40 A1. Very similar pistols in a lot of ways and couldn't be more different in some other ways. They are both from Austria. That may be the most common thing that they share. This particular Glock 23 is in my carry rotation. It has the 3-dot Glock sights that are night sights with tritium. Much better sight picture than the stock. And what can I say? It's a Glock. Feels like a Glock, shoots like a Glock. I have a rubber tail and grip on it. There you go. Reliable, dependable, accurate. That's why people carry Glocks. I don't know. See what the Steyr has to say for itself. Okay, same deal. I'm switching over now to the 6 Sauer Elite Performance Full Metal Jacket, 180 grain. Same energy, same velocity as the jacketed hollow points. See how the Steyr feels with it. The light is starting to get low. Man, I hate this time of year. You can tell it's mid-afternoon because it's getting dark. This is a weird sight picture. I don't know. I can't get used to it. It's like, where am I supposed to put the triangle? Inside the other triangle, I get that, but... Uh-oh. Looks like we didn't quite go into battery. You see that? Let me give you, see that gap? I think I had a little bit of trouble with this during the first 100, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, let's see if we have a charged striker here or not. Yep. This gun has a really nice trigger. Really weird sights. People kind of love them or hate them. I haven't decided which. I think I love them more than I hate them. Maybe I just like them. The gun feels good. It has a little bit blockier feel than a Glock. You probably thought you'd never hear anybody say that in your whole life, did you? But it is the back strap is a little more squared off than a Glock, so it feels a little bit more Lego man than a Glock does. It is wider. The slide is thicker and fatter. The slide sits a lot lower, but the bore axis is about the same because the beaver tail is so thick that it drives your hand down. So the bore axis is just about the same, even though it looks like it would be lower on the Steyr. I don't think it is. It's an interesting grip angle, very similar to a Glock angle where you've got to cant your wrist forward a little bit more than you might be used to if you don't shoot those types of pistols. But this one's, it's got a more aggressive look to that angle. It's handling the round nicely though. Recoil is not bad at all. But not really distinguishable from the Glock. They feel about the same with the same loads. So we had one little issue where the gun didn't want to go all the way back into battery. I had that problem before, I think. So I don't know. I don't know what to think about that. Let's take a look at just the numbers for both of these pistols. They are very similar in a lot of ways. Both, of course, are 40 Smith & Wesson. You can see they're very similar sized. So for the Glock 23 Gen 4, barrel length is 4.01 inches. Call it 4 inches. Overall length is 7.28. The height is 4.99, so we'll call that 5 inches tall. The weight with an empty magazine is 23.65 ounces. This is, of course, a polymer handgun. This one has the 3-dot night sights that are Glock optional. It is a striker-fired double action only, is how it's classified in both cases here. Has the standard Gen 4 finish on it. The Glock 23 holds 13 rounds in the magazine. It's 1.18 inches thick Trigger pull is rated at 5.5 pounds. I usually find mine to be closer to 6 or 6.5 pounds. The Just an Opinion grip index is 3.3 for the Glock 23. And if you paid full price for one, you're looking at about 600 bucks. Now for the Steyr S4c for compact, A1, barrel length is 3.8 inches. Overall length is 6.7 inches, so it's a bit shorter. Height is 5.35 inches, so it's a little taller in that respect, even though it doesn't actually look like it. The weight is 27.52 ounces, so it is heavier by a little bit of a margin there. Of course, it's also a polymer handgun. It has these trapezoid sights that are pretty interesting. We'll take a closer look at that sight picture. Some people love them, some people hate them. I don't love them or hate them, but I definitely am not used to them. It, of course, has the standard black finish also for the Steyr. The finish is actually very similar for both of these guns. Capacity is 12 rounds in the magazine, so it is lacking or lagging behind by 1 round. The thickness is 1.2 inches, so just about the same there. Trigger pull, they don't publish anything, at least not that I've seen, but I measured this one at about 4.8 pounds, which is very nice. Just an Opinion grip index is 3.2 for the Steyr S40. And if you paid full price for this one, you're looking at about $560. So during one of my range trips with these two guns, I let a couple of my family members I was out shooting with shoot them both and just get their opinions and thoughts on them. Neither one of them are very analytical. They just know what they like, and they're going to give me their honest opinion. So they both thought that the Steyr was interesting. One of them really liked the sights. The other one didn't really care for them. And that is kind of a nice cross-section, I think, of the opinions that I've seen and read. They both shot the Glock better than they shot the Steyr. But again, that may be a matter of getting used to not just the sights, but this little bit different grip angle. The Steyr has, because of this really pronounced dog leg here at the up at the apex of the beaver tail, it feels much more canted forward than does the Glock. So it's like a Glock grip on steroids, basically. So that takes a little bit more getting used to. I will say that the feel of the trigger on the Steyr is definitely preferable for me. It is interesting in that, number one, the first thing you're going to notice is it's a much lighter trigger and it's a much crisper trigger. Let me move the magazine out so I can dry fire it for you. But one of the things you may notice is the trigger safety slides straight back into the trigger, almost like the trigger bow of a 1911. So that slides straight back into the trigger, and then the trigger pivots normally. But it is very light. You can see that slide move right there. We'll talk about that in a minute. The only problem is the reset is a bit anemic. Not much of a tactile reset. There it was right there. If you blink, you'll miss it, or if a butterfly happened to be flying by, he might drown it out. But it is a nice short reset. The problem is, again, you kind of miss it. That could be better. That could be a little more tactile. Okay, so the other thing, as long as I got this up looking at it, let's take a quick look at those sight pictures. So here's that trapezoid sight picture for the Steyr, and again, the idea is you put the triangle inside the triangle. And I found that it likes a 6 o'clock hold, very similar to the way the Glock does. So you want to put your actual bullseye target right on top of that pyramid, and you're good to go. But it does take a little bit of getting used to, although it is kind of fast to acquire. So it's definitely an interesting concept and a little bit innovative. And I'm always a fan of innovation, even if I end up not caring for it. Glock 23 has the optional 3-dot night sights from Glock. Tritium, so they do glow under their own power. The Steyr sights do not glow at all. They are not phosphorescent, nor are they tritium, so when it gets dark, they get dark. They both shoot well. They both handle the .40 Smith & Wesson round very well. They're both pleasant and downright fun to shoot, so I did enjoy shooting them both. The Steyr, the only one problem with the Steyr is every time I've taken it out and shot it, I have a little bit of issues with the gun not wanting to go into battery all the time. First 100 I did, I had the problem quite a bit. This last time, I thought maybe for a while we had gotten it broken in past that, but no, we still had the problem. So the slide will always return home unless you got your finger on the trigger and you're holding it back. So if I'm holding the trigger back, it won't always return fully to battery. Now it'll make a liar out of me. There we go. You can see that right there. So you think, well, hey, you just, you're riding it back and you're not letting it snap. There we go. It just kind of finally found its way home. Thing is, there should be enough spring strength that should never really happen. I shouldn't be able to let that go and leave this out of battery like it is right here. So that is a problem that I believe, without going into great investigative depth, is probably just simply too weak a recoil spring. There we go. As head-to-heads go, this was a fun one. It's always a good time when I can find an excuse to get a couple of enjoyable guns out and shoot them, especially ones I don't get to spend a lot of range time with. The Steyr does, of course, have one extra little feature where you can lock the pistol using the key that's provided with the gun. You can push this in, turn it with a key, and you can lock it so that the trigger is completely locked and cannot be pulled. That is, I guess it's okay to have. It's one of those things where I can't see myself using it, but you never know. There could be a time, there certainly could be some people that might want to feel like, hey, I do my best to store my firearms securely at home, but, sometimes little fingers can get into places you don't think they can get into, and I'm going to feel better if I know I can actually lock that trigger. I can't argue with people who want to use that safety device, so there it is if you want it. Of course, the Glock doesn't have anything like that. Two nice guns from Austria. Is the Steyr going to dethrone Glock anytime soon? No, probably not anytime later either. It almost kind of feels like the Steyr S-series pistols are almost like a hobby for Steyr. I think their focus as a company has always been on their long guns, and I don't think that's really any different now. I think they just make handguns kind of for the fun of it. But it's a good handgun. It's got a lot of innovative features like these interesting trapezoidal sights. It's got a really low bore axis. It's got an interesting grip. It's got a very interesting trigger safety. So there's a lot of cool stuff about this gun. It's one I want to spend more time at the range with, but I want to see if we can get that recoil spring situation worked out.